weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht er was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich ein in die Arbeit einheimst komm, weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich ein in die Arbeiter einheimst komm, weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich ein in die Arbeiter einheimst komm, weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Здравствуйте, comrades. Welcome to a very special midweek episode of Socialism Saturday, which we're going to call Socialism Live. Of course, we do our normal stream watching socialism on Saturdays at 6 p.m. But this is basically it's like Woke Wednesday. When we do stream sniping, you know, we're kind of at the mercy of whenever the people who are streaming decide to schedule. And tonight, well, it was brought to my attention on my regular 5 p.m. stream that the socialists over at Midwestern Marx, now we've kind of ignored Midwestern Marx for a while. We've ignored them for a while. The socialists over at Midwestern Marx are getting together tonight, and they are talking about the war on Palestine. Gaza resists a Zionist extermination campaign, and they're going to have a little live stream. And so the description is, what are the latest developments in the war on Palestine? The war on Palestine. Did Saturday's events give Netanyahu and the genocidaries a carte blanche to flatten and disappear Gaza? How can we most effectively stand with our Palestinian sisters and brothers under a siege of colonial Israel with full U.S. backing? Join Nancy Mansour, the founder of Existence is Resistance, to understand the urgent questions and join a march across this country and stand with the true anonymous global heroes of Palestine. Naruto says, here's for a little midweek Marxism. You're welcome, Carlin. Thank you, Naruto, for alerting me to this stream. I do appreciate it. Now, of course, you guys know my position on this thing is that I think everyone sucks in this equation. I think Hamas is a terrorist organization. I also think that Israel has, brought it on their damn selves for keeping Palestinians in an open-air prison for decades. So I don't think there are any heroes in this situation. I'm not on the side of Israel. I'm not on the side of Palestine. I am on the side of, and this is an area where Midwestern Marx and I probably can actually find a little bit of agreement. It does happen. We agree with socialists occasionally. I am on the side of, I don't want Gaza to be turned into a parking lot. I am on the side of the 60% of the children in Gaza not the 60%. Let me rephrase. 60% of the people in Gaza are children. They're under 18. I am absolutely on the side of the more than 1 million children that currently live in Gaza not being summarily slaughtered. I don't think that's a good idea. I do think that that a lot of conservatives and a lot of influencers and a lot of politicians are beating the drums of war and engaging in some of the most disgusting behavior I've ever seen in my life, calling for the eradication of a lot of people. So you know what? Tonight might be a very special night. I might both agree and disagree with Midwestern Marx at exactly the same time. Wouldn't that be funny? But it is important. It is important to understand what the far left believes. And tonight, we watched the far left talk about Palestine more generally yesterday. We watched just earlier today an episode about decolonization that was from 2 years ago. But we have not yet. This will be the very, 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 very first time we get a live socialist reaction to what is going on in Israel and Palestine. And so I do think this is important. I want to take the temper of socialists because I do want to know how are socialists going to use this crisis to their advantage, because we all know the left never lets a good crisis go to waste. They always use it for their advantage in some way, shape, or form. So we have about 2 more minutes before this stream gets started, and we're going to tune into that in just 1 second. Before we get there, I just want to remind everyone, if you are here, please consider subscribing to my Substack. And if you are financially able to do so, please consider supporting the work I'm doing by signing up for $8 a month or $80 a year. Substack is my content hub on the internet. You get access to all sorts of exclusive supporter perks when you sign up as a paying member on my Substack, to include a potential spy stream tomorrow around noontime. A potential, I don't know if it's going to happen yet, but it could happen. To include 2 weekly Zoom calls with me, to include access to the supporter Discord, our weekly movie nights, to include our weekly writers group that goes on in the supporter Discord. And of course, you keep me doing this sort of stuff because I can't do it without you. You guys fund the work I'm doing. I'm very appreciative of it. And so if you can financially support me, if you do value what I'm doing, I hope you'll consider doing so. All right, we have less than 1 minute until Midwestern Marx gets started. I've got some pizza here. I definitely, absolutely will not be smoking weed on the internet tonight. That would never happen. I would never do such a thing. I don't want anyone starting any rumors. That would never happen. But you may see me eating some pizza. That might happen. Pizza is acceptable, but no, we would never get high on the internet while watching socialists. It would never happen, okay? All right, let's get this party started. I'm sorry. It's just been quite a week, all right? Sometimes we just need to relax and kick back and watch some socialism, I don't even have any alcohol tonight. I have water. I've got some Domino's pepperoni pizza that I haven't, just so, I don't normally eat on stream, but, I seriously have not eaten all effing day, and I was looking forward to sitting down and actually having some dinner, and then you guys were like, why don't you stream Midwestern Marx? And I was like, ugh. And so then Victor was like, why don't we just order a pizza? And I was like, all right. All right, Bob. I will check for that. I will check for that. I've also got their chat up, so of course we can see what's going on in the chat. Bot is Groiper over in their chat, just so people know. I do want to ask people, don't be disruptive in their chat. If you're going to go into their chat, fine. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you're going to go into their chat, ask good questions. Don't just shitpost. We're professionals here. We watch socialism all the time. We know what these people think. I don't want to see anyone going over there and saying, why are you engaging in capitalism if you're socialist? Because you already know the answer to that. If you're going to go over and participate in their chat, and I'll put the link in the description. If you're going to do it, just do it responsibly. Don't troll them. We want to be better than them. We are better than the socialist, okay, guys? We can make fun of them over here, that's fine, but just don't shitpost over there. You can just troll intelligently, John. That's all I'm asking. Ask good questions. You prepared for this. We train for these situations. Does anyone want to bet how long it'll take someone to go into their chat and be like, Carla Baraseca stream sniping you? I bet it's going to happen within the first 15 minutes myself. We'll see. Yes, I can get socialist bingo. Just give me 1 second. All right, I just popped the link over to the video. Let me get socialist bingo. Hang on. I put my keyboard on the floor because I was eating pizza, so I have to do this through my laptop. So it just takes a little bit longer. Do 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 do. Here is your bingo card. You guys know the rules of bingo, and I just want to say hi to everyone watching over on Rumble. I see you, Rumble. I'm not ignoring you. Here's your bingo card, Rumble. Let me pop the chat out so I can interact with Rumble people at the same time. Yes, be good to our comrades for sharing their ideas with us openly. It's much better than keeping it behind closed doors. We appreciate it anytime socialists want to put their ideas on the internet. God, I was thinking about a baked potato earlier today. I had the best baked potato I've ever had when I was in Chicago. It was like a double baked potato. It was like I don't know if it was like a celebratory steak dinner after I infiltrated the socialism conference. And I don't know if it was just like the stress or the adrenaline or if it was just like a really effing good baked potato, but it was like the best baked. I never thought I'd have the best baked potato of my life in Chicago. It was like they baked it and then they took out all the insides and they whipped it with sour cream and they put the insides back in and then they put a whole bunch of fucking cheese on the top and then they baked it again. It was so good. Dave, please don't shit post in my chat, bro. We're being chill tonight, okay? We're being chill. We're watching Socialists. That's already stressful enough. Just like, in fact, I should turn my lights down. Hang on, I'm gonna give it mood lighting. There we go. Now we have mood lighting. Chill. I know it's only 8:30, but we're chilling tonight. Emily, you got it made. My favorite baked potato ever was a double baked yam, bacon, sour cream, little bit. Oh, that sounds so good, Kurt. That sounds so good. Oh, man. The EU is asking Elon Musk to censor information not conforming to the Western narrative over Israel's war with Gaza. Yeah, that's great. Someone just sent me that. God. I mean, I'll give you smart questions to ask bot after they get started because I will give you guys, if you want to go over to their chat, I'll tell you what you should ask them. Hopefully they get started soon. Socialists are always late. Ooh, my screen just turned black. Black as night. Isn't that fun? Hope everyone's having a good night. Please make sure you mount that like button for me. As a reminder, I'm not, again, guys, I'm going to say this. I'm not on anyone's side here. I'm not pro-Israel. I'm not pro-Palestine. I am pro not murdering millions of people over the acts of a few people. I think that'd be a really good idea. I am very anti-war. I don't believe we should be involved in any of this. I do expect tonight that the socialists are going to take a very pro-Palestine bend because socialists in the far left tend to be pro-Palestine. They don't like Jews because Jews represent capitalism to them. Yes, socialists are really anti-Semitic. Socialists are just as anti-Semitic as Nick Fuentes. Isn't that ironic? Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? Nick Fuentes, who's currently flirting with me over on Twitter for reasons past my understanding, but you know, the world is crazy. The world has gone mad. God. Nick Fuentes approved the banned knitting shawl for anyone who missed that little development earlier. The woke knitters will be thrilled. Yeah, bot. Yeah, maybe they won't ban your Groyper account. Exactly. You know? You can all bond over your anti-Semitism. AD, the USSR created the Israeli state. Look it up. I didn't know that, AD. I trust you, though. You usually tend to be right about these things. I did not know that. What is Putin's position on all this? Does anyone know? Yeah, socialists suck at technology. That's why it takes them, why they're always late. Dave, you need to cut back the shit posting, man. Just relax, bro. Relax. Chill. Come on. We're not going to turn up the temperature tonight. One of the things that I've been thinking about that I don't quite know how it's going to play out here is how is the far left going to use this to their advantage to gain more power in the United States? That's a question I'd like people to be thinking about. It's something I've been thinking about. How are they going to use this to gain more power here? I don't know the answer to that. Oh, look, Putin correctly pointed out it's the fault of the US for propping up both regimes with their money. Well, ain't that would be the truth there. God. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Solidarity, comrades, in the chat. I had a revelation about a week ago that ally, you know how they're trying to get your kids to be good little allies in school? We know that ally means like supporting the far left, but do you know what ally really is? Ally is the gateway to comrade. They're trying to get your children to see themselves as a member of the Borg, as a member of the collective, as a future member of the party. It's like in the USSR where like in the USSR when my husband was there, he was a pioneer in school, which is like the precursor to being a full comrade in the party. It's like the junior like the junior level of comrade. But now they call it ally in the United States. Number 2, my favorite Chicago restaurant was a hot dog restaurant called Hot Dogs. That's funny. I love Chicago hot dogs. Chicago hot dogs are like the best type of hot dog, I think. And it's because the relish is very green. And I appreciate like the celery salt as well. And I appreciate that there's no ketchup on it because I liked ketchup on a hot dog when I was younger, but I don't know, just something about ketchup. Ketchup bothers me for some reason. I don't like it. But Chicago hot dogs are really good. Yep, Chicago hot dogs are better than all other hot dogs. I agree. You know, I mean, we had fall. Fall is late this year, so I don't know that there's actually, I mean, maybe there's foliage in the mountains, but not so much here. Like, I think things are just starting to turn, so. Out of curiosity, where was my hubby during the Chernobyl incident? He was, he was at home, I think it was like he was like 500 miles away from Chernobyl or something like that. But he was there. I mean, he remembers it. We were watching the show Chernobyl, and in the show Chernobyl, the kids were dressed up in school uniforms that looked like what Victor had to wear going to school growing up. I've seen one picture of Victor in his school uniform, and it looked exactly the same. Matthew M. While the pen is mightier than the sword at any single moment in time, the sword will always prevail. Thank you, Matthew M, for the super chat. I do appreciate it. All right, guys, we're just getting ready for our friends at Midwestern Marx to start the effing stream so that I can start eating my pizza because I haven't eaten all day and I'm really hungry. AD says, Carlin, I want to thank you for your clarity and principled stance for things in recent days as a breath of fresh air. You know, people either love me or hate me for my stance. I mean, pretty much like any other thing, I suppose. But I appreciate the positive feedback I've been getting on it because there aren't enough people saying this is a bad effing idea. Bot, are you queering their chat? Who was right? I mean, obviously, I'm adorable, but who was right? Chernobyl has always been fascinating to me. My mom was a PhD chemist who wrote some peer-reviewed papers after the tragedy. Chernobyl was legit, man. Like, that was crazy. The show Chernobyl would have been great if they hadn't had British accents. That was like the worst part of that show. Is I live with someone with a fucking Russian accent. Like, you're gonna tell me you're gonna create an entire show about Chernobyl and they're all gonna have British accents? It was so distracting to me that I just couldn't get over it. Zally, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. This is a family feud that's 3,500 years old. We need to stay the F out of it. That's true. As a libertarian, the non-aggression principle is the prime directive. That's true. That's true. I mean, the show was excellent. It was just the choice about the British accent. I was like, ugh. I watched the whole thing on a flight to California one day, or like most of it on a flight to California, I think. California and back. In the before times when I used to travel. Yes, ally equals comrade level 1. Exactly. And then they graduate from ally into activist. Activist is comrade level 2. What's after that? Oh, then they graduate to queer. Well, queer and activist can both be the same, I guess. So ally is level 1, activist is level 2, and level 3 is comrade. Doesn't really need more than 3 levels. That's good enough. Naruto says, the country of Israel was created in 1948 by the UN. The USSR was involved, but not entirely sure of how involved they were. Oh, so some competing opinions. AD, do you want to counter Naruto's narrative? They do use ally with the Gay Straight Alliance. They do. John says we literally have Be an Ally month in school district. I'm telling you, ally is the gateway drug to comrade. I'm not joking about that. I know I might be sounding like I'm acting funny, but well, you can't identify as a useful idiot though, Vince. I mean, no one wants to identify as a useful idiot. Like, you do want to identify as like, I'm a good ally. And then you do want to identify as an activist. I'm a good activist. I'm a social justice activist, queer activist. And then you identify as comrade. Yes, ally is to lead to socialism. Ally is to get them to start thinking about themselves as part of the collective rather than as an individual. Exactly. We're getting started. Hello, Miss What?
History of what's happening to the Palestinian people. We have with us tonight Nancy. Nancy's the co-founder of Distance is Resistance. She's going to share with us
is nice and loud.
Some of her experience, how we can support here in the belly of the beast.
It's always good when we can actually hear them.
Where this problem has originated from. And Noah, Eddie, and Carlos, of course, send their solidarity. They're all working on different projects right now. So we'll roll this international, and then we'll begin to collectively unpack what we know
collectively
from Gaza, from the West Bank, from occupied Palestine. So here comes the international.
All right, while they're doing that, let me just read AD's super chat. After the Palestinian mandate ended and Israel declared its statehood, Stalin allowed that guy to sell Israel arms in their civil war, thus tipping the balance in its favor. Very insightful, AD. We appreciate it. All right.
solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power.
I know my music is better.
Welcome to another stream of Midwestern Marx. So Nancy, first and foremost, thank you for taking time. I don't think anyone in the world besides other Palestinians and people who've survived decades and decades of occupation and colonialism could ever imagine what you, your family, and your people are going through. So I just want to take a moment to recognize the humanity within this moment, as much as Netanyahu and these Zionists try to strip us all of our humanity. How is your family? How are you all doing, first and foremost?
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having us. My family, my parents are there, thank God. They're currently safe-ish. I mean, you say safe, but nobody's really safe there. We're from a city within 48 territory that my parents are not in they're not surrounded by many Arabic people, Palestinians. And so, in times like this, there's lynchings by Israelis. Anybody that speaks Arabic, like, they won't speak Arabic. I already know, like, if they're outside the front of the house or if they're up the street or whatever, because I call them and they won't speak to me in Arabic, out of fear of being, beaten up or killed. And so, there's that constant fear, and it's really crazy because we have the privilege of like being able to go back to the UK. Although there aren't any flights right now, we've been trying to at least get my parents to my mum's village. And my dad, who is in his 80s, who was born in 1939, is refusing to leave because he says he won't run from them and he won't leave his house. And I was like kind of going in on him, and then I thought, it's kind of crazy. Like, they had to in 48, as a little boy, he had to walk to Nazareth with his family when they, took their home and attacked then. And it must be like some crazy PTSD that he's going through right now, where he's like, I'm not leaving, you know what I'm saying? And so, I have to respect that and just hope for the best. And so they're currently safe-ish in their home. But I can't, as for like my friends and family and people, in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, especially in the Gaza Strip, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Anyone I speak to, it used to be like, can you go to a safe area? And they kind of can tell what areas are safe-ish, and there is nowhere that is safe for them. Absolutely nowhere.
And talk us through, the propaganda offensive. I think arguably the most dangerous part of this war on Gaza, this war on Palestinian nationhood, is the fact that right now Gaza this is day number 5 without electricity, without internet, without running water. I don't know, maybe we should show for the audience some of the horrific bombing footage. Those that need to look away will look away. But how do we document what's happening? Such an aerial bombardment in the Gaza Strip is not a large area. It's 2 times as big as Boston. And then these fascists like Netanyahu say, well, we gave them a 5-minute warning and they can flee. Where can they flee to? They're completely trapped.
Yeah. And not just that, he told them to go into the fields and go to the beach. First of all, we all know, I was there in 2014 when there were 4 little kids playing on the beach, and they attacked them from a ship because Israel controls the water around Gaza, and they've blown people up to pieces on the beach. They told people to leave. People went to the border with Egypt. What did they do? They bombed the border today.
That's true.
You know, the fields. They were bombing the fields yesterday. They killed 4 paramedics today. You know, they bomb ambulances. They've been known for that. All over, not just in Gaza. They do that in the West Bank. They did that in Jenin. They bomb ambulances. Nobody's safe. They've killed, you know, 4 or 5 journalists already in the past few days. I mean, nobody is safe anywhere. There is nowhere to go. Like literally, you could drive from one end of Gaza to the other in 20 minutes, 30 minutes at max, and that, you know, and across like width-wise in 10 minutes. There's nowhere to go, like at all. And then if you think about that tiny piece of land that they've got them under siege in for over 16 years, you have over 2 million people living there. So they don't build outwards, they build up. That's all they can do. And so you can imagine, I mean, you know how densely populated, one of the most densely populated places in the world. And so there is nowhere for them to go at all.
Yeah, just for comparison, the city of Boston has about 600,000 people. So when you think of 2.4 million human beings compressed into the Gaza Strip, which has become increasingly smaller and smaller because Zionism, with full U.S. backing, continues to encroach upon that land. I mean, I don't want to sound unnecessary alarms, but should we try to predict what the Israeli hardliners, what the Zionist hardliners?
I mean, that would be really nice.
What do you think their plans are at this point? Are they going to stop at anything? Are they trying to push all of Gaza into the Sinai Peninsula, into Egypt? Will there be a Gaza in a month or two?
No.
Where is this going to?
They don't want. They're not trying to push it anyway. They don't want them. You know. There's so many thoughts that have crossed my mind about, you know, just knowing who we're dealing with. You know, when I first saw the images that came out, I was like, you know, this isn't the MO of our resistance. This isn't the MO of like how they've moved, or like, you know what I'm saying? And I thought to myself, you know, it was weird because first of all, let's just put it out there. A lot of these stories that they've been coming up with, this propaganda has been outrageous. I mean, literally, I literally see it and see everybody reposting and I'm like, yeah, that's not true. And I don't even need to look it up. And boom, you know, not even 24 hours later, people are retracting, like the LA Times are retracting. You know, where was these rape videos that people said claimed to have seen? There was none whatsoever. They claimed there was a girl that was dead. They actually took her to the hospital. You know, there's so much propaganda being spewed by them.
I agree.
That it starts to make you think. You know, they have said they're going to wipe out Gaza 1 million times. They didn't say it, you know, they said it way before 3 days ago. They've said it for years. And so I don't think they're trying to move them anywhere. I think they're trying to eliminate the whole strip. And it made me wonder whether, you know, would they be okay? Would they sacrifice a few of their own for that? And looking at his place strategically in those areas, why would you have settlements right next to, walking distance to the Gaza Strip, right, of elderly people? Why it looked like a retirement home? Like, why would you put it there? It's all questionable, you know what I'm saying?
It's completely questionable. You know, of course, we don't engage in wild conspiracy theories.
It's not fine for anyone to say it.
But
it's not fine for other sides.
$3.3 billion they receive, that's just the public funds that they receive. All of the high-level meetings with the Central Intelligence Agency, with the State Department. Blinken will be there in a matter of hours in 48, in occupied Palestine. I mean, I can't help but think, and I'm not putting out this out there as a definitive conspiracy theory. Obviously, we can't prove it one way or the other now, but would Zionism be willing to sacrifice 1,300 human beings, 1,300 Israelis, 1,300 of their own, quote unquote, in order to continue Zionist expansion.
The Gazans. That is exactly the Palestinians in Gaza. That's what they want to do. They want to wipe out the Palestinians in Gaza. That's what they want. And they've said it. And is it worth it for them? And is that a real number? Because they have lied about their whole existence is based, their whole existence is based on a lie. So, do we believe that number? Who's reporting that number? I don't believe any
of these numbers. Yeah. No, we cannot. We have to question any number that comes from the mainstream media. There's no question. Another thing, I mean, I'm not telling you, Nancy, you born and raised in this struggle, but what they'll do is they'll take also the resistance that went in. If the resistance lost any of its resistance fighters, they'll tack that on to the total death tally without even differentiating.
Since they keep the bodies, they've held bodies for years of Palestinians that they've murdered in cold blood, and they don't return the bodies to the parents. I agree with her. Because let me not even get into that. That's a whole other. I was going to say what they do with them, but yeah, they hold bodies, so yeah, they probably put them towards their count too.
Just like they blockade Gaza, they blockade our minds here in America. We have an audience here that's a critical audience, an anti-imperialist audience. I mean, if you're watching Midwestern Marx, clearly you're open. So we're not gonna run into too many trolls or Zionists. Right now, they're showing all types of returning Zionists who are going back to quote unquote. They're making them look like heroes. So there's this new
weekend warriors.
You call
Do you know about the weekend warriors they have?
Tell us about it.
No, they call themselves weekend warriors in the West Bank. Well, you've seen the videos of them with their little kids arming them right now, and did you see them? Like, I don't know if you saw the video going around today of them arming their kids. Just it's almost like it's funny. It's like everything they say that Palestinians do, they do. There's something called weekend warriors. You can Google it, where people could go to the West Bank and train in these settlements. And
I want to see pictures of the 4 decapitated babies. And by the way, Gen X-Ray, Biden released a statement earlier today saying, I can't believe I had to see pictures of 40 decapitated babies. And then almost immediately, immediately, the White House released a statement saying Biden didn't actually see pictures of the 40 decapitated babies. So yeah, I want fucking evidence. I want fucking evidence of any of this shit happening. Now, I'm not going to say that Hamas are not terrorists, because they are, but I want fucking evidence. They've lost their privileges. So if you start making claims like there's 40 decapitated babies, and then you can't back that up with evidence, and no one has seen the evidence, and everyone's saying there's no evidence, but people are still pushing the story. WTF, bro? You guys start making up crazy bullshit stories, then that's what you get.
And I was like, I thought it was his friend at first. I'm like, what? And he was like, and then he turned around to him and he was like, I'm Palestinian. I don't want to hear that in my building. What are you talking about?
I want evidence. There's no evidence of this. There's zero evidence of this. Zero.
Crazy. It's not even that crazy, because half the people that are out there in a foreign army are from the US and Europe. They had a girl on the news today from Massachusetts.
Then why can't they provide evidence? They can't provide evidence because they don't have it.
Why? Why are Americans running out there to fight in a foreign army? I mean, we know why.
Then they need to provide evidence. Why. There's no evidence.
The power of
we can argue about this all night, guys.
They're making it seem like it's absolutely crazy that these soldiers that have died, or like some of the people that go missing, are like from Europe and Canada.
All right, apparently we can argue. You guys can argue with me and and not watch the stream. I'm fine with that. Biden said he saw the baby video today, and then almost immediately the White House released a statement saying they didn't actually see anything. It's on my Twitter right now. You can go and verify. Biden fucking lied. He lied. He didn't see shit. Biden saw the same thing he saw when he said that Donald Trump said white supremacists were very fine people. Did that ever happen? No. Neither did this baby thing. Don't fucking lie, and then people won't demand evidence.
This is not new news.
And I will be blocking anyone who continues to argue with me on this, to be honest, because we're actually here to watch a stream right now. I'm not doing this. I'm not fucking doing this.
That this quote unquote blood duel has existed for centuries and millennia, which is absolutely ridiculous. In 1900, at the turn of the century, Palestine was a peaceful place. 85% to 90% of the people in Palestine were Muslim. There was roughly 8 to 10% that were Christian, and there was 5 to 7% of people who were Jewish. And that wasn't a big deal. That wasn't a big deal until the Zionist nightmare.
No one believes the media until the media is like, they decapitated 40 babies, and everyone's like, oh my God. It's like, you didn't believe anything the media said 5 minutes ago, and now you're believing every crazy thing that they're saying without proof when everyone's trying to push us into a war. It makes no sense, guys.
We've seen some truly, disgusting things here in the U.S. Let's actually offer some examples. The Congresswoman Rashida Talib, just for being Palestinian American, has come under so many different threats. They try to blame her and say that she's somehow connected, to the resistance. Of course, they don't say resistance; they say Hamas and they say terrorists. But when you look at such a clearly colonial question, I mean, just go back to Algiers. Anyone who hasn't seen the Battle of Algiers, and to quote Dr. Huey P. Newton, the oppressor has no rights the oppressed are bound to respect. So from a Palestinian perspective, from a colonized perspective,
the oppressor has no rights that the oppressed are bound to respect.
What we saw on Saturday also was the explosion of paralysis. It was David grabbing a slingshot. Did it take the form that many of us would want? Was it pretty? Was it a tea party, to quote Mao Zedong? No.
Thank you, Reagan.
But when you've been blockaded, embargoed, starved, colonized, disturbed, displaced, what weapons are left to you? So I want to show one of the clips. We marched on Monday. Let's talk about Monday for a second before I show one of the hateful Zionists that we bumped into. So we marched. Predictably, the NYPD put us into the pens. But whenever Nancy's around, and Rebel Diaz and the Mortal Technique, we're not going to stay in them pens. So when Nancy was on the move, when the masses were on the move, we were all on the move. So we broke out of the pens after an hour or so at about roughly, 3 p.m. on Indigenous Peoples Day. And then we headed down 42nd Street or 41st Street. I mean, the police were everywhere. There were helicopters, there were drones, they were following us everywhere. Our crowd, somewhere around 3,000, 4,000 range. The Zionists probably had about 500, 600. They were screaming, horrific, racist insults, one of which we'll show. But I just wanted to get Nancy's take on this. So we banged that right. I think we were coming down, I don't know if it was 42nd Street, but they were trying to keep us contained on the sidewalks. But how can you keep thousands and thousands of people who are trying to prevent a genocide, an extermination campaign, pushed onto the sidewalks? So on 3rd Ave, we busted open, just like during Black Lives Matter, just like Occupy. Nancy and I have been there, I don't know how many dozens of times.
We have marched for years together.
Remember the time they had us pinned down on 113th Street and we didn't know if we were going to get out? We were pressed up against St. Luke's, against
right behind the hospital.
The police held us, like, this is during Black Lives
Matter. I remember that.
After they had killed Mike Brown in Ferguson, and Ferguson all of a sudden became the epicenter of resistance. No one had even ever heard of Ferguson before. Just like in these days, a lot of people weren't following the Palestinian struggle, but anyone who's an anti-imperialist, anyone who believes in justice, anyone who's a socialist, right now, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say I didn't get pinned in because I was there, but there's certain moments where you can tell that they're about to close in on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes, people that maybe, by accident follow suit into areas that you just, you got to pay more attention. You can't go the way they want you to go. You know what I'm saying? You got to go the opposite way. If they're trying to lead you to a certain area, there's a reason for that. You know what I'm saying? They did that in Haifa in 2014 when they were bombarding Gaza. They did the same thing to us and split us into groups. And I already knew it was going to happen.
What is he doing?
There was honestly no avoiding it really, because by the time we came down the street, there was, you're talking about the Yassam, the military police, the regular police. They had horses, everything. So it was like there was no getting away from that. But I squeezed my mum out a side block. You know what I mean? There's like, I already knew what was coming, but I was ready for it.
The headline on Timcast tonight: Biden confirms kids beheaded, except that it never fucking happened. Tim, you fucking shill.
They tried to box us in on Monday with all of their police scooters and motorcycles. So we're boxed in. We somehow pushed through the motorcycles. Now the Zionists are on 43rd Street. So the Zionists are one block up. Now Nancy's at the helm. If y'all know Nancy, she does not play. She don't play with the police. She surely don't play with Zionists. So I'm like, in the second kind of column advancing. And I'm thinking in my head, Nancy's going straight at the Zionists. Nancy's going through the NYPD, straight at the Zionists. What was going through, street tactics and street strategy, something that needs to be studied closely. What was going through, I'm not sure the correct, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I mean, we outnumbered them definitely, but I'm not sure what would have come if we got any closer to them. I mean, and that's maybe the more correct question. Is there any way to penetrate the absolute ahistorical ignorance and the arrogance? I mean, Zionism by definition is exclusion and arrogance. Nancy, is there any way to build with some of these people?
It's an interesting question because I want to say I wish, you know what I'm saying? But there are certain demonstrations or rallies that it may be possible. Maybe like the ones that celebrate, Israel Day or whatever, the creation of Israel. You could maybe catch one or two that may listen. That are confused when they see people like Neturei Carter, Orthodox Jews, that parents were born in Palestine and recognize themselves as Palestinian Jews and actually go by Judaism and the Torah that tells them the Messiah returns and gives them the land. They don't take it by force. And so when they see Orthodox Jews, they're like, hold up, why are you there with them? Like, why are you holding the Palestinian flag? And, some conversations can be struck, but in these types of, like you're talking about, there are babies being blown to pieces, and the numbers are horrific, as we know, and yet there are these people, which you're about to show them, that come out to basically say, F the Palestinians, wipe them out, and death to the Arabs. And that's the mentality that you're dealing with, and it's the same mentality that you deal with when you go to even like AIPAC. We've protested AIPAC in Washington D.C., the second biggest lobby, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. And I remember one time so distinctly, this one kid, I mean, I've dealt with really disgusting, filthy individuals, and I'm talking about like kids who are no older than like, maybe 16, 17, whose parents are standing with them, and they will call you every single name under the sun that I'd be too embarrassed to even call somebody I hated, or somebody I disliked, or in the worst situation, there is an elder. I don't understand how they would, but they don't, that's how they train them. But there was one, I remember we were on the megaphone and we had pictures of some kids from Gaza. And I remember this one kid, my sister Ashira from Palestine, was talking, and she was saying to him, do you support the murder of this baby, this baby? She was saying their names and how old they were and where they were from. And I remember him burst into tears. And I thought for a sec, I was like, hold up, but there's certain rallies that I don't feel that if they come to that rally, like full flat, like you'll see in the clip you're going to show of the people that were there, like that's what you're dealing with. And I don't know if you can get through to
There's
people
not much happening in the chat,
when they're at that level of ignorance. I don't know how, you know, you wouldn't unless you drop them off in Gaza. And to be honest, you know, we've seen how, for the most part, Gazans have handled. The only reason they take hostages, for the most part, is because they want to get Palestinian prisoners. You know, we've got thousands of Palestinian prisoners, political prisoners that are held by Israel, some with no charges on administrative detention that have been held for years and years and years, while Israel investigates them, and it gets renewed every 6 months with no actual charges. And so the hostages essentially are used for freedom. It's because Israel, okay, a few years, 2000. Do you remember when Gilad Shalit got caught? And Israel exchanged one Israeli soldier, one. Mind you, there were some black soldiers missing, but they didn't go looking for them. The black Israeli soldiers. They went to get Gilad Shalit, and they swapped one Israeli soldier for 1,027 Palestinian political prisoners.
What did she
You understand
say?
the number?
Generally, too long didn't
One
read.
Israeli soldier called Gilad Shalit, and they swapped him for 1,027 Palestinian political prisoners. So they couldn't have been that dangerous that they were holding them. But that's, you know, there's lists, they submit lists of people they want released. And so that it's really used for that. And also, I mean, at this point, they've been under siege 16 years. I think it's really, you know, it's about their freedom, and they know that Israel will go to great lengths, or they have in the past at least, to release people. But also, my whole point of saying that is to show that they were always treated, you know, fed and clothed and not like beaten and tortured, and you know what I'm saying, like they are taken care of. And so, you know, not approving or disapproving of any tactics that they use, because I don't live that life. I don't live in a cage. You know what I'm saying? I don't get tortured. I haven't had my family, you know, blown to pieces in front of me. And so I can't talk on tactics because I'm not in that situation. I don't think anybody that isn't living in that situation has a right to say what's right and wrong on what people do, to release chains off them on their own land. Let's remember that they're not invaders. They're on their own land. This is where they're from. And so, you know, I just, I think that it's important to remember that because there's many stories coming about the whole hostage stuff of what they're doing to women and all that it's nothing it's nothing like what people are hearing, and they'll see stories unfold like I said, the girl that they said was raped and killed and paraded on the back of a truck. She wasn't. They're saying that, and again, story's not verified, but her mum did go on the New York Post, which I mean, of all newspapers, right?
She wasn't killed.
But she went, and not just the New York Post, you can Google this, that she is alive and in the Indonesian hospital in Gaza, and the Palestinians took her back to get her to a hospital, and she wasn't shot by them, but by Israeli soldiers who opened fire on the Palestinian resistance, while when they came out, and they were like basically in the desert where that party was going on, the music festival.
Wow, I'm gonna look that up. I want to verify that.
You know, there's stories that will unfold day by day by day. There's many stories. I'm gonna try and send you the link of.
Can someone try to find that New York Post story while we're watching this? Because I do want to verify that. But if what she just said is true, that is shocking. That is shocking.
Children, and you know, that is what the Israelis are saying happened.
AD, I saw that story all over the place of that girl that had with the legs. I saw that all over the place saying she was raped and murdered. I saw it all over the place. I know exactly what she's talking about. Oh, shit. I didn't mean to do that. Hang on. Stand by. Sorry, I accidentally hit the forward instead of the volume.
Let's see. What's up with the volume?
And Israel need to do like this. You see? Now, Gaza.
No, that's not what she said. That's not what she said. I'm sorry. We're going to get verification, but if
like
that's what happened,
but
that's
all
shocking.
this, Jewish. Two options.
What do you think the response should be to Gaza?
We gotta wipe them off the fucking map. I'm talking about
Thank you.
every fucking planting them like a parking lot.
Yeah,
They're planting them now. Once and
there's
for all,
nothing else you can do. They proved to us that there's nothing else you can do. We tried, and
we tried everything. It doesn't work. We have to wipe the flat off the fucking map, like a fucking parking lot.
I'm not stopping till all Arabs are wiped out. Fuck Palestine. Palestine to my dick.
What do you think the response
Why is this acceptable?
Kill all Palestinians, all of them. Not one left from the river to the sea. Palestine will be deceased.
And Israel need to do like this. You see?
So, my apologies to everybody that we even had to show that, but that is a prevailing mentality, unfortunately. And we're not saying that, of course, the Jewish communities are any type of monolith. There's so many Jewish sisters and brothers and comrades who are on the right side of the barricades, on the right side of history. But the desensitization campaign, the racist campaign, the stigmatization of all Arab people. I had a student, Nancy, at John Jay College. It's about 10 years ago. And in the middle of class, she's like, but how can you even talk about these people? And of course, I was like, whoa, these people? And she's like, yeah, all those Arabs, they're suicide bombers. And she was completely in the middle of a college course. And I was looking around like, and then I had a Puerto Rican student one time. And this was.
I really hate to break this to everyone who's saying no. There are several news stories that can seem to confirm what she just said, and we're gonna find out in the coming days if that girl is still alive. We're gonna get more information on whether those stories are true or not. But right now, they seem to confirm what she said. So we're gonna find out. But all of you who believe all the negative things you want to hear about the Palestinians, you better take a long look in the mirror and remind yourselves that you all mistrusted the media up until about 5 fucking minutes ago, and now all of a sudden everything, and the government for that matter, because I do not have like status on this channel. You all mistrusted the government and the media up until about 5 fucking minutes ago, and now you're swearing everything the government and the media tells you is the truth? Because it only if it's targeted towards one direction, but not if it's targeted towards the other. You better take a long look in the fucking mirror and remind yourself of what you know is true and get out of your tribalist bullshit.
The anger, because of course, on a personal level, I want to feel their pain. There were Jewish individuals, they were settlers, they were colonizers, they live in colonized land, but there were people who were massacred. There were people who were murdered. I'm sure there were children and women. I mean, how can we, on a personal level, recognize that without losing sight of the context? That's why it's correct to say that Zionism created the very context for what happened on Saturday.
So I have yet to see a concrete report on children. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I just haven't seen an actual report with the name of a child, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't,
There's no name.
I'm not saying.
Right.
I'm not.
No.
saying,
And the only reason I say that is because the only people that is recognized by international law, as it being a massacre or a war crime, are children. Everybody else on that land is a settler. They are not civilians. They may think they are.
Yes,
but they are not.
She's going to do it. She's a socialist. That doesn't mean the stories are real.
They thought it was okay to bring their children and settle next to the indigenous people of that land that have been caged up for 16 years. I wouldn't take my child anywhere like that, knowing that if you put somebody in a cage and torture them and torture them and torture them and torture them over and over and over, something's going to come of that. Again, I don't approve or disapprove because it's not my place to. I can't judge, somebody for doing what they did to attempt to liberate their people, to liberate themselves. People think that this started 3 days ago when, or Saturday when the armed resistance broke out of Gaza. Okay. People want to say Hamas, 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 Hamas. Okay. Hamas wasn't created on Saturday. And Hamas, when people want to talk about Hamas, why do they want to start as if everything? If you look at the headlines when they're reporting here, the war between Israel and Hamas, how did this become a war between Israel and Hamas when Hamas wasn't created until 40 years after Israel was created? So why can't we start at the beginning? Why can't we talk about the 40 years of massacres and ethnic cleansing and torture and brutality that Israel has bestowed on our people? Why do we have to start 40 years later when there was a resistance movement created from the 40 years of brutality? It's fine. We can have a conversation about anything, but let's start at the beginning. And why do people skip 40 years? I just don't. That's the part that I can't understand, is why are we skipping 40 years? Hamas wasn't created till 1987. So why can't we start at 48 when Israel was created? Why can't we talk about how Israel was created? Why can't we talk about the over 500 villages that were wiped out, massacres after massacres? We could talk about Tantura. We could talk about Deir Yassin. I mean, unspoken, like literally, Israelis go to a beach. They make you pay for a parking lot where there is a mass grave of Palestinians from that fisherman village of Tantura on the Mediterranean. The people that survived that have changed their last name to Tantura, just so that people wouldn't forget about the massacre of Tantura. Like, nobody wants to talk about that. Like, it didn't start on Saturday. It exploded on Saturday.
Bars right there. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's why they're never gonna let you. They're never gonna let you on CNN or in the mainstream media. I mean, right now the airtight manufacturing of lies, of propaganda, of information, this whole 40 babies with their heads cut off, they just invented that. And we have to go back.
They did.
When it was bombs away on Libya, 2011.
They did.
The big lie on CBS and ABC over and over. Gaddafi was handing out Viagra to his soldiers to go out and rape. They didn't say who, just for the heck of it, go out and rape. When it was time to recolonize Iraq, they said that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. When it's time to pulverize Syria and recolonize Syria, what was the number one lie? Chemical weapons. But the Israelis, the Zionists, use white phosphorus. They used it in 2018 in Gaza.
And not only did they just spray it in Gaza again yesterday, if you follow Martaz Azazi, maybe you could post his link to his page later. Martaz Azazi posted the white phosphorus. They couldn't get to certain people because of the white. So they bombed and then sprayed the white phosphorus so people couldn't even get to people because of the chemicals used. And then they also sprayed it today dropped it on Lebanon, on the border between Lebanon and Palestine. Occupied Palestine.
Did I hit this one here or this? Which one is the one?
You know what? It was on his live. See how look at the censoring is unbelievable.
What?
Yeah, the censorship.
Yeah. Why don't they want to see? Why don't they want you to see dead babies? Because didn't we just send them more weapons? That was America's way of like getting involved and striving for peace, is by giving them more weapons, saying defend yourself. What was it, the governor today that said Israel defend itself, wipe them out or flatten it? That's what he said. He said flatten it. So defending itself is murdering, what number are we at now? 1,128 was the last number that I read. So 1,128 Palestinians, mainly civilians, over 270 babies have been murdered by Israel in a few days. That's self-defense. Which part of that is self-defense? If you go to his story, are you able to share that, play the story? If you play the story, it should it's one of the new, it was this morning, I believe I saw it. It should still be up actually.
I'll go through it and you let us know when you want me to stop.
That's the paramedics. You go back, that's the paramedics they just killed behind him.
So you narrate as I play the different updates. Some are self-explanatory.
Yeah, Israel loves to bomb anybody, you know, ambulances.
How many journalists have been murdered? They've murdered like 14 journalists so far. They've bombed the buildings where Al Jazeera and different networks are. So this is a one-sided war. This is not a war.
It's not a war. It's not a war. It could be a war if they would give Palestinians the weapons they give Israel. It could definitely be a war. It wouldn't last very long. They'd be out within 24 hours. But, you know, they're not going to do that. The babies, look at the babies.
Yeah, to everybody, you know, it's difficult.
This is Israel defending itself.
I don't know. Do I need to? I don't.
It's graphic, but I mean, you know, I think as American taxpayers, people should see where their, you know, $10.4 million a day goes to. These weapons right here that are doing this. Not to mention, we haven't even spoken about the fact that Israel has blocked off fuel and water. They shut the water off on Gaza. They have no water. They have no water. They have run out of fuel. They can't even get to babies, people. Like, I mean, it's a massacre. I don't know if anybody's ever seen like a massacre play out in front of them, but this is it. It was a
I don't know if this is the white phosphorus, but
no, there was a I'll have to find it. But if you, he posted it. It might have just got.
Well, anyone who's not following is an important journalist and comrade, Motaz Aziza. Definitely check out his work. So, Nancy, a lot of people in the chat, we'll get to the chat after, but a lot of people are invoking the spirit of Frantz Fanon and Pancho Villa and all the anti-colonial fighters who came before us.
James
Certainly, this was a week where, for those of us who born and raised here, resisting empire, this was a week to put into practice all of the theory. All of the what are these books for? They're not here to look pretty on a stream. They're books to be applied, like Marx's quote that theory becomes a material force when it's gripped by the masses.
They're using the theory.
What you're helping us do is to put this in the proper anti-colonial, anti-imperialist context, and that's why the mainstream does what they do. So that the everyday people in the U.S., everyday Israelis, everyday Westerners, everyday people across the world can't understand the backdrop. Why was the Black Panther Party for self-defense called the Black Panther Party? Because a panther gets backed down into a corner. The panther wants to retreat. It can't retreat. It's backed into a corner. It wants to go left. The hunter won't let it. It wants to go right. The hunter won't let. What can the panther do but come forward? What can the Palestinian people do but come forward? And psychologically, how could the Palestinian nation, the diaspora, everyone who's marched for Palestinians since 1994, in my case, how could we not feel a series of emotions last Saturday that finally the paralysis, the fear, the domination, psychologically, the PTSD, the generational trauma, momentarily, that was exploded, proverbially. But
wow,
I don't know what went through your mind when you saw them able to penetrate Zionist borders. Did you immediately think,
and here's the part where
with
I'm like,
fear that the retaliation would be what it's been so far?
Don't agree. Nope. Back to disagreeing.
I was shocked at first. I was like, what? It took a minute to register. I was up that entire night. From the second it went down, I was up. I actually just slept last night for the first time in like 4 days for a couple hours.
Julie, you've been smiling, spreading propaganda bullshit, so maybe we shouldn't get too much on our high horse, okay?
I cried. I was like, my people are out. I was like, my people are out. And then I thought it was a joke. Then I'm like, you know, like it didn't hit me. And then maybe like an hour in, when more and more videos were surfacing on like the Palestinian news networks, I knew that they were going
Don't lie in my chat, Julie.
do something
Don't do that
the Israelis would retaliate in a psychotic manner, because that's what they do. They react in, you know, my dad's a diver, and he taught me how to swim, and he always told me many people drown themselves out of fear when they think they're drowning. People splash themselves to death instead of, you float. Like, people just they don't get the science behind that, and you could just float, but out of fear you end up like splashing yourself to death. And eventually Israel's going to do that to itself. It already started. I mean, they've been shooting each other every day too. I don't know if you saw that. Which there's also claims about, how many of those civilians that or what they call civilians, that were killed, that actually was the Israeli army trying to get at the resistance. And who knows what claims are correct, right? But it's a weird feeling. It's really hard to explain. It's joyous that my people got out, that they broke free of a prison that they have been subjected to horrific conditions in for so long, and nobody gave a shit enough to get them out, and they got themselves out. And so that's like, whoa, like, but I knew something was horrible was going to happen. But you mentioned the Algiers, bro, the Battle of the Algiers. 30,000 Algerians died, and then they took France over. I mean, like, they beat France, 17 years later they were free. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's never been questionable that liberation doesn't come at it's not cheap. You know what I'm saying? It's not cheap at all. And it's something I said to somebody earlier too, in these chants, when we're at rallies, people say, Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry. Gaza ain't crying, bro. There may be a video of people crying at the immediate loss for a second, but Gaza teaches us what it means to live. Because if you can fucking live every day the way that they've been living for 16 years, bro, I'm not even counting the occupation at its entirety, you know what I'm saying? Just the 16 years under siege in Gaza and the conditions they've been subjected to, and the massacre after massacre that they've been subjected to, the fact that they still live and smile and greet us with love and still know how to love is teaching life. You know what I'm saying? And so, this is what we're seeing is liberty, as Americans like to say, liberty or death. This is freedom or death, bro. That's where they're at. It's freedom or death, and this is the true. You're seeing it before your eyes. People have said it and said it and said it, but this is what it is, bro. It's freedom or death. Every single person that walked out from behind that wall that day was ready to die for their fucking freedom.
I want you all to think about how that's a beautiful thing. I want you all to really think about how they're positioning this.
When you were invoking the Algerian resistance, it took me right back to Haiti.
Oh yeah.
And I've always said Palestine is the Haiti
I don't know how,
of the Middle East.
But yes.
I had a student once who was half Haitian, half Palestinian. That's like only in New York City, type thing. And I just looked at her and was like, I know you a revolutionary because you really have no choice. And she looked back and she's like, why do you think I took your course? And I was like, let's do it. Let's go. And it was beautiful, shout out to many of my students who were in the streets. Because again, all these books, for what? It's not about A's and B's. It's about where's your humanity? Where's your connection to our people? Nancy, you want to tell them about Existence is Resistance? Obviously, you can't lead contingents right now to break the blockade, but you've brought Dead Prez and Immortal Technique. You've brought so many different artists over the years. How many trips have you organized to break the siege of Palestine?
So Technique hasn't been to Palestine yet, but he will. Shout out to my brother Tech. So I've taken many people for the past 15 years, and you know, because I truly believe that there is nothing more powerful than you having your own experience in something and seeing it firsthand, right? Nobody really understands something till they do it, right? Like, it's like, you know, nobody really understands what it means to have a child till they have a child, or nobody really understands what it means to be shot and almost die until they get shot and almost die, right? Like, there's no, you can try and understand, but it's not your experience. And you could read a book about Palestine, you could watch a documentary about Palestine that somebody else saw and filmed or wrote, and you know, that's from their experience, and you're reading their experience, or their theory. But once you go, it's whatever you think it is, whatever you're seeing on TV, like right now, whatever you're watching, it's 100 times realer when you're there. I mean, it's real, but it's like, you know, it hits you in a way that you don't think that it will. And so, you know, the people going are really important. I did just literally cancel we had an olive harvest delegation to go and help, you know, work with the farmers and protect the farmers while they're harvesting their land, because they are subjected to violent attacks by settlers, which, by the way, today in Nablus, the settlers who just got like thousands of weapons yesterday delivered to them in the West Bank. We're talking about the West Bank now. They got thousands of weapons delivered, and that was the video of all the young boys getting their guns and their bullets, if you saw that earlier. They opened fire on Palestinians. I think they killed 3 or 4, and I mean, the last thing I read an hour ago or 2 hours ago was that 3 or 4 had died and over 20 injured. I mean, they literally go out and just open fire on Palestinians. So we were going to go, and we had a really great delegation that was going to go and help harvest. That's obviously not going to happen. It's not cancelled, it's postponed. That's what I'll say. And postponed, you know, if we don't go in the next couple of weeks, it will be a maybe not an olive harvest delegation, because we will go as soon as things calm down, and you know, we'll do whatever we can, whatever the people ask for on the ground. The only good thing I will say, and I want to shout out Cultures of Resistance, ER&Lee, did donate to the delegation, which is under Eyewitness Palestine. They donated $10,000 for equipment for the farmers, which we purchased. We ordered it beforehand, and it is like a hand harvesting tool that helps them cut their job in half. And so we were able to at least help the people on the ground in that sense. And you know, I encourage everybody to go. This Eye on Palestine is a news website from Palestine that, I mean, I say news, they put out things by, you know, as it's happening as well. So it's definitely one to follow. That was the one I was watching everything unfold on. You know, there's other Arabic ones that may drop things a few minutes before this one, but for the most part, you'll see horrific stuff on there. But, you know, just send it to the people that pretend like they can't see it, or, you know, because I haven't seen any of this on CNN or, you know, I don't even, I feel stupid even saying like Fox or whatever, because they don't care. But yeah, as far as delegations, I urge everybody to go. We do have an event tomorrow for Eyewitness Palestine. Eyewitness, EYE Witness Palestine. There is an event for Gaza. It is a fundraiser for Mecca, the Middle East Children's Alliance, who I have seen their work on the ground in Gaza. I traveled with their original founder to Gaza in 2009. And they do have some supplies in storage there that they have been trying to get to the people. The bigger issue is trying to get the stuff to the people because of the roads and Israel's, you know, unpredictable attacks. So, I mean, it's everywhere. So we have a fundraiser tomorrow at 12 noon, which will be via Zoom. And if you go on the Eyewitness Eyewitness Palestine page. There is a link to that Zoom on that page. And so if people want to join that, please do. Yeah, we've had, follow our pages, Existence is Resistance, Eyewitness Palestine, and you'll see the different things that are happening. And if you're interested in going on a delegation, you can always sign up, and inshallah, I hope soon we'll be able to go.
And Nancy, what solutions? What would Palestinian liberation look like? I mean, it's not necessarily the time to discuss these things theoretically, because of course all of our attention and solidarity is with the people of Gaza, with the people of the West Bank and the occupied territories. But clearly, in a unipolar world, in a world dominated by US capitalism, US imperialism, what solution could there ever be? Because the US is the colonial overlord. I mean, how quick was the US already gives billions and billions, and they had to fly there immediately and start giving more and more missiles and bombs and weapons. So all of this blood is also on Biden's hands and Lloyd Austin and Blinken's hand, and that whole genocidal machinery. The political existence of Zionism is contingent upon the ongoing domination of US empire. They're wedded together. They're intimately interwoven. What is Zionism? What is 48? What is Israel?
What is Zionism?
Israel functions as nothing more than a giant US battleship parked right in the Middle East. And when you try to have common sense conversations with family members, with coworkers, just say, well, why do these Israelis look like me? Why were their parents or grandparents born in Poland and born in Russia? And of course, we have to unpack the history of the pogroms and anti-Semitism and where did all that come from and what gave birth to Nazism. Well, it didn't
Palestinians. It wasn't Palestinians.
So, true to their form, the colonizers exported their problem. So where another people existed, and they tried to set it as a people, as a land without a people, which of course we know to be the Zionist myth-making machine. But with all that said, do you want to, and I want to be respectful of your time. We're right at an hour. I'll follow your lead whenever you have to get back to your family, sleep. When's the last time you slept?
I did sleep last night. I did. I got like 5.5 hours. I was done. I couldn't even talk no more. There was nothing coming out my mouth.
I hear it in your voice. I hear it in your voice.
No, I sound way better than I did yesterday.
So where does your revolutionary optimism come from? What's the solution look like? What does a liberated Palestine look like? And how do we get there?
I'll always say that's really for, Palestinians on the ground to decide. But I will say from this end, the first thing that has to happen is we need to stop sending Israel money for weapons. If you run out of bullets, if you're fighting someone and you're shooting, and then you run out of bullets, now what? Do you understand what I'm saying? So number one is we have to stop arming them. That's what we're doing. We are sending them so much money, so much of our tax money that could be used in so many other places here, right? Education, healthcare. I mean, the list is long. And once that happens, that will be a path to some sort of discussion, right? Because the killing has to stop. Number one, the killing has to stop. And then the reason why I always say Palestinians have to decide, because, I can't speak for a mother that's lost all of her children in Gaza about if she wants to live next door to the person that may have done it. I can't speak on that, but I do know that this two-state solution idea is not a solution. My father was born in Haifa. right? When it was Palestine, before Israel was created. And they never left. They shot my great-grandfather in the head and they took our land and our home. My father's family, they walked to Nazareth at the time. And 2 months later, they were able to come back to Haifa homeless, but they came back to Haifa to their city. And so in a two-state solution, where can my dad go that is where he was born and raised, that he knows like the back of his hand, his home, like his city is Haifa. So where does he go in a two-state solution? Does he go move to the West Bank and become a refugee so that he can live in his own country? That doesn't even make sense. A two-state solution works in the minds of people that, one, live over here and don't understand anything about the layout there, or how, you know what I mean, or what, you know, people's villages and towns and cities mean to them, right? Or it's people that are sick in the head and don't know how to live with other people and don't want peace from jump. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a two-state solution is not a solution. You're just separating people. And obviously there's a problem with somebody, which is why you're separating them. And it just doesn't, you know, who's the problem? Who's the problem child? And that's why I believe at some point too, bro, at some point, America's going to have enough. They don't want, how much blood do they, I mean, well, actually, I was about to say how much blood do they want? I'm like, oh, they're soaking, they're dripping in it. But, you know, but like at some point, it's like that, you know, it's that dead weight that you're carrying. How long are they going to carry it for? You know? So yeah, I mean, you know, my initial thing always is, you know, you can acknowledge there is a form, I believe. I'm going to find it and send it to you. Maybe you can share it. But there is a form that you can fill out acknowledging and saying, I do not support, you know, my tax money going to Israel for weapons. And
I don't,
you know, it's
Israel
at least making that acknowledgement, you know what I'm saying, and putting pressure.
For any reason either. I'll sign it.
You know, I've never been one that believes in like any of the political figures that we've ever had or will ever have, because the system was not built for it to change. Maybe to you know, change its style every now and again, but it doesn't, it's not a system that was built for us to come into and say, hey, we're gonna free our people now. It's not gonna happen. And so I don't have any faith in the system. So, you know, I'm not saying that they're going to say, oh, hey, we'll stop sending money because you said you don't like it. But at least, you know, there's little things to acknowledge. I don't know. I feel like if there is enough pressure from, and it would have to be the majority of Americans, because a lot of people, you remember when we was on the Conan O'Brien show? Do you know that the biggest, the comment that was put up the most by people, and it was millions of people that watched that show when he was in Palestine, was because he put the clip of me saying about how much money they got in weapons, because he asked me what the solution is. I'm like, bro, I'm not, you know, everyone wants me to come up with a solution. I don't know, bro. I just know that we have to stop feeding them weapons. And so when I said that, the comment was like, really? Our tax money, we give them that much? It's on the government website. It is easy to find. And the more Americans are made aware of how much tax money goes there, and I'm talking about the regular American, I'm not talking about Zionists or people that are running after brown-nosing Israelis, you know, or think that they're from the Middle East. I'm talking about regular Americans that are struggling every day to put food on their table, you know what I mean, that are struggling to pay for healthcare, that are struggling to put their kids through college. You know, you know, whether that's billboards, like people need to invest in shit like this, like billboards of like how many, you know, how could you get a free coffee and a donut for a day every week if you stop sending that money to Israel for the nation? You know what I'm saying? Like simple shit, but it makes sense, you know? And so it just awareness, spreading awareness, speaking to people, getting people off this mainstream bullshit media that, you know, half the channels are owned by, you know, one person that is being paid to feed you the same bullshit. You know, the
I'm finding myself
media,
with
we have to be able to people think that if they share something online, it's not doing anything. It's doing a lot. You know, the each one teach one theory is huge. I'll tell you, I'll end on this because I know I've been going off on rants because there's so much going through my head, but I want to tell you this. I've been in this country 20 years, and I have met people from all walks of life. And when I came here, I wasn't deep into the politics. I've always been Palestinian. That's my blood, right? But, you know, there was other things I was trying to do. And when I would meet people, I would still always drill into their head, because I know that, you know, our existence was, or Israel's attempting to completely erase. They say we don't exist, but I'm right here talking to you. You know what I'm saying? And so I always made it a point to talk about Palestine. I wasn't organizing, but I'm talking about when I came here and I was like, you know, 20, 21, and I would talk to people about, they'd be like, where are you from? And I'm like, you know, that country they stole called Israel, Palestine. And, you know, and I've been drilling that in. This last week, or the last few days, I have received messages. I haven't had a chance to get back to everybody, but I have received messages from old roommates from over 10 years ago. I received a message from my old primary care doctor in Harlem that I haven't seen in 7, 8 years. I received messages from people that I took to Palestine in 2009, in 2012. I've received messages from my daughter's teachers. She's in preschool. I've received messages from people that I never thought would even understand what Palestine means.
That doesn't
and it
mean
has been
they
support. It has been checking, you know, how our families are doing and how we're doing. And it's different this time. It feels.
Can you really imagine advocating for the murder of over 1 million children because there are problems in Gaza? You're going to justify the murder of over 1 million children in Gaza, which is exactly what will happen if they turn Gaza into a parking lot, because they have problems? No shit, they have problems. No shit. Doesn't mean that 1 million children deserve to die for it.
But the outpouring of love has like really reaffirmed to me how much work I've done by myself in just making people think of listening when they hear the word Palestine. They might not know shit about it, but they know I'm from there, and now they're listening, you know. And it really hit me like I'm talking about it, because it's really on a different magnitude of what it's ever been, of people reaching out, and random people, and you know, and I love them all for it. But there's something different happening. And so yeah, I'll leave it at that. Big change to come.
Yeah, you're a people person. I mean, anyone you've crossed paths with could never forget.
I am allowed to agree with whoever the fuck I want, and I will not coddle to your goddamn sensibilities because you have a murderous bloodlust for over 1 million children. You're getting put in a timeout now. You want to keep shit posting in my chat. We'll see how long you last.
We went into an ATM. We went to get to an ATM quick, you know, just simple Friday night errand. And I don't know how it happened. Someone heard your accent in the Citibank or whatever it was. And they said something, you know, they said something about Palestine or Israel, and you just went off. And that was when I was still, you know, getting to know you. And I was like, this comrade, this sister does not play. That dude ran out of that little, you know, it wasn't the whole bank. It was just the ATM area. It was at nighttime. That dude was out. He did not look back. And, you know, your voice shut down that whole little ATM area. So I always admired that in you. You know, you carry your ancestors, your people, this liberation struggle with you everywhere into the streets. And thank you for educating us. You know, I'll give you your out. You can stay on. I'm going to keep going because I feel like there's energy to unpack some of this history. I actually want to take it back to Yiddish land. In 1900, this is a good fact for y'all. In 1900, 90% of worldwide Jewry, of the Jewish population of the world, 90% lived in the Pale of Settlement in Poland, in East Germany, in Latvia, and Lithuania. 90% of the Jewish people in the world lived there. So what happened? Of course we know what happened with the Holocaust and stuff, but how does a people, it wasn't just one people, because Jewish people in Poland were very different than Jewish people in St. Petersburg and Jewish people in Berlin. So we have to unpack all of that history, but they've tried to simplify it, and they came up with this whole birthright. I mean, that was mystical creation story and invention that any Jewish person in the world can just go back to this area, but there's an indigenous people there. So they're completely responsible for everything that's proceeded since then, including this penetration of Israel that we saw on Saturday. So low key, y'all know low key? You know, this is a different generation, Nancy. We're starting.
I know.
we got a few years on us. I was so excited years back. I think low key went back to Iraq or the Middle East. He said he was taking a break, and he went back to learn Arabic. And I thought that was such a powerful.
He went to Palestine.
He went to Palestine.
He was in Palestine in the West Bank, and yeah, he speaks Arabic fluently now, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Let's show low key. The first post is not low key, it's Justin Bieber. But low key's commenting. Please don't confuse low key with Justin Bieber. So let's take it from the top. Low key, Iraqi rapper, displaced by how many decades of war on the Iraqi people. Jeez, I don't know. It's having like a meltdown. I should have kept it on Justin Bieber. I'm not sure what happened here. Let me see if I can.
Did you see Justin Bieber's tweet?
That's what I was trying to show them, but
it
didn't happen. But tell them as I cue it back up.
Yeah, he put up a I pray for, I stand with Israel, or I'm praying for Israel, and it had a picture behind it. He put it on a picture of the Gaza Strip where it had been bombed out, and said, I stand with Israel. There you go, praying for Israel. Is that the one?
Wow.
But that's actually Gaza in the picture.
Wow.
I mean,
you can't get stupider.
Wow.
Like this. Isn't it just better to shut up? Like I just
That's not
you can't make this stuff up.
That's stupidity.
And Justin Bieber, the poor lad,
Oh,
the poor boy,
my
as Malcolm
God.
may have said, he represents the U.S. mentality. And that's what the New York Times does. If you read the bourgeois newspapers closely, they try to conflate like the Middle Eastern deaths. They don't distinguish between the Palestinian indigenous people and the settler, invader, colonizers whose skin tone is similar to mine. Why? Because their grandparents were born in the areas that we laid out. So they try to erase all of this history. And I do want to go into some more political analysis. I was talking to some different political scientists today. I think this is Netanyahu's moment. This is the hardliners' moment. We can go back and forth on, did Israeli intelligence know? Well, we have proof. The Egyptians said that they warned the Israelis. Something was in the mix. Something was what could potentially happen. And the Egyptians said that the Israelis completely ignored it. Whether they had complete prior knowledge or not, we might not have the smoking gun. Regardless, whose agenda has benefited from post-Saturday? This is giving Netanyahu, the hardliners, the racist scum of the earth, the rabid dogs are loose. Netanyahu posted a few hours ago, Hamas is ISIS. So they keep bringing it back, millions and millions of Palestinian people, roughly almost 3 million in the West Bank, 2.4 million in the Gaza Strip. How many Palestinians, including Nancy and so many others, exiled for how long? The Palestinian diaspora. And Netanyahu is reducing an entire nation to this pigeonholed, stereotype, stigmatized thing without any exploration of Hamas since 1987 and who does Hamas speak for. No nuanced discussion, no discussion with the historians and the sociologists. These people are dangerous. My prediction is that these people, this wing of the Israeli ruling class, in the US ruling class, these people want to finish Gaza. They want to push Gaza into the Sinai Peninsula, into Egypt. They want to displace these people even more. They want to say to the Arab world, to the Middle East, they want to say this is your problem, not our problem. That's their rhetoric. We tried everything. You know, these animals, these people. That's what one of the Zion. I can't even call them protesters. What do I call them? These poor boys in terms of their ignorance.
Yeah,
We can't live with these people. We're too civilized. And when I bump into Israelis, Israelis are not a monolith. I'm not trying to go there. But when I've bumped into Israelis in airports and on airplanes, they'll sit next to me. Have you been to Israel? They'll always, have you been to Israel? You have to come. It's so democratic. It's so beautiful. And I'm like, you know, my heart is going like this. Like, I just want to, you know, quick 1, 2. But, you know, I also don't
that's a little much.
Get hauled off of airplane coming from Brazil or whatever it is at that moment. But, you know, Nancy, the floor is open. We can go here. Well, there's a super chat, and then I want to get to some of the other comments. JM posted nothing more, nothing less than solidarity. Thank you, JM, for that super chat. There's a lot here. You know, our audience is probably a more youthful audience. I think it's interesting how the family, Midwestern Marx family, there's been a lot of posts about basically bury the Zionists, and it does bring up different theoretical questions where these are human beings, no matter how full of white supremacy and Zionism. And we can say all day, they're going to go. Anyone who's been to Krakow, Poland, you know, anyone who's been to Warsaw, like where Treblinka was, because the Nazi death machine, they wanted to export their brutality. They didn't want it to happen in German proper because they didn't want German women and children. I was on research in Eastern Germany, and some of the old school cats told me they were hauling all these bodies off, all of the Jewish people and the socialists who'd been killed, and at a stoplight, the back came off somehow, and a bunch of bodies spilled out, and the Nazi officials had to scramble about, and people on the street were like, well, what's happening? And I think that's an apt analogy. A lot of Israelis do know, first of all, that this is genocide. This is a genocidal campaign. This is an extermination campaign. And a lot of people in the U.S. know. But there's also, does Justin Bieber know what he actually just posted? Clearly he doesn't.
Justin Bieber doesn't know shit.
So I think the liberals, finishing with the political analysis, I think the liberals in Israel and the liberals here, sometimes the liberals are worse than the conservatives here.
Wait. When you say liberal in Israel, what is a liberal, like, Zionist? I'm just trying to understand. What is there a liberal KKK member?
The liberal Zionist is the one on the plantation who said to the master, master, can you treat that slave just a little bit better? That's a good slave. That's what a liberal Zionist is. Okay, the Zionists, well, not the Zionists, the Israelis, the liberal Israelis who are in the streets protesting, because there are protests, and those protests will grow. There will be an anti-war movement.
I hope so.
I think that is the political faction, the political wing
ideal.
That'll try to stop Netanyahu. Netanyahu's not listening to this stream. He's not listening to low-key. He's not listening to reason. So I'm just trying to be realistic day by day. Because if it's up to the Trump-esque Netanyahus, they have no problems killing every last Palestinian or with a population removed. You look like you're contemplating.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you asking? I was reading the comments.
Well, that's what happens to me. I start reading them comments.
I was talking with someone yesterday on Twitter, and I was calling this I was pointing out that they're trying to enact a genocide over Palestinians, and I completely stand behind that. And do you know what the person on Twitter responded? No, Carlin, it's not a genocide. They only want to kill about half of them. Really? All right.
I'm expropriators. That's a good one.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, Malcolm X always had the best, you know, one-liners against liberals. He said, you know what a liberal is? A white liberal comes to Black America and says, you know, my goodness, you have that knife in your neck and it's plunged in 12 inches, but we're going to remove it an inch or two to help you out. That's what a liberal is. So, you know, you don't have to convince me ideologically. There's a reason we've been on the same page. Nancy, you know, remember that time you had the cook-off? I think you had like 3 different revolutionaries, and we had a cook-off. You remember that one?
And yeah, it was me, Jaime, and
Chichi was like 10 or 11. So my son, Ernesto de Salim, Ernesto was one of the judges. And Jaime, remember Jaime, the Mexican revolutionary?
Yes.
Jaime was one of the cooks. You were one of the cooks. And then y'all had to make like a similar dish, but with your own national seasoning. And then you brought it out. We couldn't know whose was who. And there was anyway, all these, you know, beautiful memories. And like Vijay Prashad says, all we want to do is live. We love life. What do the Zionists love? We love life. We love dignity. We love self-determination. What do they love? They love destruction. They love divide and conquer. They love genocide. They love displacement. And, you know, Dan Cohen and other comrades all day, every day debate us. They don't want to debate us, Nancy. They can't debate us because you can't debate with the truth. You can't debate history.
1,000%.
The truth is on the side of the oppressed. So, Nancy, thank you so much for being here.
All right.
You know, shout out to your family and the next generation that you're raising now. You know, I got to get out there to visit you and your family.
That's disappointing.
Definitely, you know, get some rest. Let's have you on and other comrades on. This is your home. And
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, you please come through and I'll make you a really special Palestinian dish. I'm sure you know about it. It's called upside down. And I laugh because it's pretty much the situation right now is like upside down, but it's a very famous Palestinian dish called makluba. And it literally means upside down because you cook everything almost like you make like you know, I don't know what you call it, but it's you layer everything and then you turn it over, and it's don't they make like arroz con pollo or something? It's kind of the same, but a little different.
A lot of similarities. Should I hit you with one more blast from the past before you leave, or you had enough of the random stuff?
No, go ahead. I love blast from the past. You know, it's just crazy because people say crazy shit. Like at my baby shower, the stories that people were telling, it's like, bro, this is the baby shower, bro. Like people don't want to hear about that time. You know what I mean? It's like, because you know, people have crazy memories. But go ahead, as long as it's not about me hearing someone.
I was at table number 6 at your baby shower, and I enjoyed every last story. And was telling plenty of them. At Nancy's baby shower, there were Black Panthers, there were Young Lords, there were Palestinian freedom fighters. You know, there was Chilean resistance to Pinochet. It was like the true United Nations. It was like
and Norman Finkelstein.
Norman Finkelstein. If you haven't read Finkelstein, he's fabulous. He was on Katie Halper last night. So the resistance comes in so many different forms. You know, everybody here in the comments, go join a march, because even if you have to drive an hour or two, sometimes, you know, we're privileged to be in Los Angeles or New York City. There's like 10 demonstrations per day. But sometimes in middle country but you have to be in the streets right now. The streets, being shoulder to shoulder, feeling that human warmth, that anti-imperialist warmth coming from the people. That's what's going to detonate your paralysis, your fear, the backwardness, the divide and conquer strategies that they try. So one more story, and we'll let Nancy go. So we was up in this club over by that Burkina Faso restaurant. This is like 1:30.
Oh, the Shrine.
Okay. I'm sorry. I can't listen to this guy tell stories. He's not talking about anything I care about. I guess, you know, I mean, like, this was a little bit of an interesting experience for me, if I'm honest about it. Because, you know, I mean, usually we have the rule on this channel that socialists always lie. And I do think that is a pretty decent rule to follow. But I have to say, like, we've been watching some socialist videos over the last couple days, and on the I am not saying I stand in solidarity with Palestine, because I don't stand in solidarity with Palestine. I am not on either side. I think both sides are awful. I think Hamas is I have to do this preamble every single time, because if I don't, I will get a comment thread full of conservatives calling me an anti-Semite and a terrorist and a traitor if I don't. So let's just do the fucking preamble, okay? I think Hamas is a terrorist organization. I think that what they did to Israel is atrocious. I also think that Israel has been keeping Palestinians in an open-air prison for decades, and at some point, when you're imprisoning an entire fucking people, that means that they're going to rebel against you at some point. I think there are no heroes in this situation. I think the U.S. funded the whole thing on both sides. I think Israel knew what was coming and allowed it to happen because they want to wipe Gaza and Palestine off the fucking map. And I think that we need to stay the hell out of it. I'm not on either side. The only side I am on is I really don't think it's a good idea to, turn an entire city filled with millions of people that are innocent in all of this that cannot leave into a parking lot. I am not on the side of bloodthirsty warmongers who are praying for death and destruction and the murder of over 1 million children. Not in favor of any of that. So I find myself in a precarious position because I disagree with many things the socialists say. I do. I do not believe, I'm not standing in solidarity with Palestine. However, I have found the socialists that we've been watching specifically on this issue to be, quite frankly, a little bit more hinged into reality than normal socialists. Maybe this really is the difference between like the socialists who are fighting the culture war, like the gender ideology socialists and the race socialists and the abolitionists and like all that stuff. Maybe like it's one of those things that like Palestine is like an actual problem. This is like most woke bullshit, right? Most of the stuff that socialists spend all their time complaining about, it's nonsense that they've made up in order to drag our society into Marxism. Okay? But when you're talking about like the Israel-Palestine stuff, this is an actual problem. Like all of like the gender bullshit and the race bullshit and like all that, that's made up nonsense. The Palestinian thing is like an actual problem. And so it's kind of like, I almost, there are issues that I've always agreed with socialists on. I agree with abolishing the police. I think the police are a gang. So I'm actually with them on that. But I will say it's like, I'm having a really hard time right now because I agreed with a lot of what they said in terms of, I think there's a lot of propaganda. I am blown away, and I mean really blown away, that story about that girl that there was video all over the place of that girl in the back of a truck, and people were saying that she had been raped and murdered. And I saw that video like hundreds of times when I was looking at stuff on Twitter, hundreds of times. And now apparently she's alive and they were taking her to the hospital and they're trying to figure out how to get her home. And this was reported in the New York Post. Really? Really? It's not a story that the socialists are making up. It's real. And this 40 decapitated babies thing. So people, I've been getting notifications. Carlin, did you know that Joe Biden confirmed that he saw pictures of the 40 decapitated babies? Don't you feel foolish, Carlin, that you ever doubted this? Well, guess what? After Joe Biden confirmed that he saw pictures of the 40 decapitated babies, the White House almost immediately released a statement. I have it right here on my phone. I guess I can show it hang on, let me just show the fucking tweet. Hang on, stand by. I'll read it on the screen right now. I will read it on the goddamn screen. This was a statement that was released right after Joe Biden said, I can't believe I had to see pictures of 40 decapitated babies. I've been doing this a long time, Biden said at the White House. I never really thought I would see having confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children. Oh, really? Did he? A White House spokesperson later clarified that U.S. officials and the president have not seen pictures or confirmed such reports independently. The president based his comments on the alleged atrocities on the claims of Netanyahu's spokesman and media reports from Israel, according to the White House. In response to the questions from the Post, an Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson declined to comment on the state of the victims' bodies. Oh. Well, Racked, apparently they're trying to figure out a way to get her back from Germany. So apparently someone's talked to someone, and for right now, I'm going to assume she's alive, and we're going to find out in the coming days. And aren't you going to feel foolish when you're like, but we don't know. We don't have proof. We don't know. Because her mother came out and said she was alive. Her mother did a video saying, hang on, let's look at it. Let's look at it. Got it right here. Bing. Let's look at it. We're all here. We're all here. German tattoo artist Shani Luck, believed to be alive after being paraded through the streets by Hamas, mother said. The mother of the 23-year-old or 22-year-old German Israeli woman thought to have been stripped naked and murdered by Hamas now believes her daughter is alive and has demanded the German government's help in getting the young woman to safety. Shani Luck's mother said in a video of an unconscious, unidentified woman being driven by militants into what looks like Palestinian territory indicates her daughter is alive. No, I'm not going to support you, New York Post. Go after yourself. We now have further information that Shani is alive, but has a severe head injury and is in critical condition. Every minute is crucial, the desperate mother explained in a brief recording. We ask, no demand, that the German government act quickly. This is really desperate call to the entire country of Germany to help get Shani back home healthy. Locke was seen after dancing at the Tribe of Nova party. There was the video that I saw all over Twitter. We're going to find out if this story is true or not. My bet would be that that's true, that girl's alive and that we were lied to. There are atrocious things happening, guys. There are legitimately atrocious things happening. No one's denying that. No one's denying that Hamas has done some of those atrocious things. They absolutely have. I don't know why we aren't talking about the fact that Israel has killed 260 babies. Because if that's numbers right, and I have no reason to believe it's not right now, it sounds about right to me. Israel has murdered 260 babies in Gaza. Why are we allowed to talk about the atrocities of Hamas, which are legitimate atrocities, and we're not allowed to say Israel killed 260 babies so far? I don't know why Israel is feeling the need to lie and spread propaganda. Oh, I do, actually, because the more atrocious the crimes are, the more likely it is that the United States is going to get pulled into a war. They know how to incite people, and they're lying and spreading propaganda to do it. And two things can be true at once. It can both be true that Hamas has done horrific things and that Israel is lying and spreading propaganda to try to pull the United States into a war that will end up with the United States in a war with Iran. Israel can handle this on their own. I have no problem letting these two fight it out. I think that we're about to see a genocide. I'm really disgusted by that. I'm really disgusted by the people cheering for it. But the United States needs to stay the fuck out of it. And the only reason that Israel would find it necessary to lie right now, because Israel can easily defeat Palestine. This is not even difficult. Israel can easily defeat them. The only reason that Israel is lying and spreading propaganda that conservative influencers are helping them spread to get us into a war. So you're just believing the Israelis then when we already know they're lying. That's not smart at all because it aligns. This is why conservatives are believing these things. Conservatives don't like Muslims. Can we just be fucking blunt? Conservatives don't like Muslims. I hate it when conservatives make me agree with socialists. I really, really do. Oh, yeah. I've seen video of dead babies in Gaza. I've seen evidence of that. It's on Twitter. We need to pray that the United States does not get involved in this, guys. And I would pray, if you pray, I would pray for everyone in Gaza. I would pray for the innocent people in Israel, too, to be honest with you. Because there are a lot of people that are going to get hurt in this, but there's only going to be one genocide, and it's not going to be of the Jews. It's going to be of the Palestinians. That's the genocide we're going to see, perpetrated by Israel. Which should, I mean, listen, guys. Sometimes we eventually become the monster that we're fighting. You know what I mean? Israel has a right to exist. Israel has a right to defend itself. I do not believe that Israel has the right to genocide an entire people. At some point, you got to draw the line and say, no, you have the right to exist, fine. You have the right to defense, fine. I don't really care if you're Jewish. You do not have the right to genocide an entire people. Anyway. I don't really have anything else to say, guys. I'm going to take off for the rest of the night. I'm not feeling great. I'm going to go relax and maybe like eat some comfort food or something, because that's just the type of mood I'm in. But I will be back tomorrow, guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. We'll see you soon. Bye.